What's going on, guys, and welcome back. We are nearing the end of June, and for the few Patreons, you guys know what that means. Shout out to you guys. You're awesome. Your contributions directly go back into the channel to help giveaways such as this one, where we have our enchanted rare Tinkerbell. Again, at the end of June, we're doing that one. Also, we are so close to our 4,000 subscribers. That's just going to be a subscriber giveaway on the channel. Nothing else needed. So hit that button. We're almost there. Set 5 case giveaway. But today we have a deck to talk about. We just did Ruby Fasa the other day. We have a lot more things like our How to Beat Bucky video coming and other set championship stuff. So we have a lot of good information planned and not much time to do it. So make sure you hit those notification bells so you do not miss, or just come back pretty much every day, because again, I have too much to drop and to do that I gotta squeeze it in somehow. But without further ado, guys, today we are going to talk about Lemon Lime Discard. What makes this deck work? What does the deck function around? Well, I'm taking a different spin on it. We have everybody's favorite squirrel, Bucky. We are playing Bucky in the deck. In addition to that, though, I figured with Bucky, I'm like, why, like with Bucky, right? Why Bucky? Why Bucky and everything? Well, this is a discard deck, so naturally it makes sense. We need draw cards, so Diablo makes sense, goes with Bucky. We have a power play in Kita plus Under the Sea. And guess what? Kita is a Floodborn, so again, it makes sense. Queen is one of the strongest shift 2s in the game. Floodborn makes sense. Ursula, discard Floodborn, makes sense. So Bucky pairing up with our plethora of Floodborns just works out so good. In addition to that, again, we have the Under the Sea board wipe that you can pair up with Akita to take out very strong characters. There's not a whole lot else to talk about as far as why the deck works. So how do we expect it to fare into the meta? Well, against the Bucky Steel deck, you got to look out for their Steel songs, unfortunately. They do run Grab Your Swords or other cards to tech in to take out Bucky, so your Bucky might not stick. But that's not the end of the world. Like I said, you have different play lines versus them. The Under the Sea play line works really good versus that deck. And if you get your key to shift, it works on a very early curve. And if you do that to them on turn 4, you're probably sitting in a really good spot, because they have Bucky on 2, Diablo on 3. Depending on their turn 4 shift, if you're lucky, they come back with another Diablo. Odds are, though, they come back with like Aladdin, Jafar, or a Shift Pegasus, all of which will survive the Under the Sea, unless you shift Kita on that turn, because the Kita shift will drop everything's attack by 3. So you do have the Under the Sea board wipe for them. You also can discard aggressively to try to remove their hand. Not only do you have Ursula, you also have Bare Necessities to go after the songs in their hand. Well, if they're loading up on the back end with the strong Steel cards, which is starting to see more popularity, we also have World's Greatest Criminal Mind to be able to take out your opponent's high threats. If they don't have those big threats, you have Queen to boost their attack, and then World's Greatest Criminal Mind to take them down that way. Looking into the Ruby Sapphire matchup, we have a lot of low-cost characters, so naturally you can get things out like Queen, Kita, Pegasus turn 1. Then you can come back with Bucky and get that aggressive discard going, which we know already is good against that deck. And then we have all those strong shifts, so you can come back on turn 3 with Kita, Pegasus, Diablo, Queen, any combination of these cards. And if you can set up Ursula too, well, you're sitting in a good spot, because every time she quests, you get to look at your opponent's hand and hit a non-character out of it, which is going to be very, very strong into the Ruby Sapphire matchup. I think this deck has a ton of potential, and it's probably one of my favorite decks to be a sleeper for the set championships this time around. Think Blurple from last set, where I was going to have it as an honorable mention in my top 10 for the Stitch championships. I left it out. Ben Gibson was a fantastic player on Pixelborn. showed up to my locals actually, and he ended up getting his Stitch there, along as I think he ended up with like 4 of them playing Blurple. He wasn't the only one. Blurple exploded onto the scene last set championships. I think that deck this time around is going to be Lemon Lime. I'm not saying it's going to be a top 5 deck, but I think it's going to be a top 10 deck, and it's going to surprise people and take down some of these events. Your Ruby Amethyst, kind of like the Ruby Sapphire, you get that discard going like a Bucky style against this deck, and you can be in an alright spot. You have your Ursulas, your other Ursulas, and your bare necessities to hit that late game be prepared and really control the pace of the game into that late game. Do you have to worry about something like a Sisu? Not particularly, because a lot of your characters, especially in that mid to late game, have more than 2 strength anyway. Losing Diablo is going to hurt, but your Queen, your Pegasus, things like that are going to be okay. So you do still have playlines to be able to get around and through things like this. The last one is Sapphire Steel. This one could definitely get tricky because obviously the ramping, turning on those cards earlier is going to hurt. But I'm a broken record here. You have 3 cards in your deck that allow you to aggressively go after non-character cards in your opponent's hands. That's pretty much it. You have 3 different options for it, in addition to just the generic discards you're going to force on your opponent. I've seen a few of these lists pop up, and every one of them's felt like they needed something, including this list I'm going to show you today. But I think it's a very, very good place to start, to try and tweak, and to take. I 100% stand by this list. I'm not saying it's optimized. I'm not saying it's finished, but I think it's in a very good spot and absolutely capable of getting that top 4 or even your playmat. And with a little more tweaking, this deck could go on to make some noise in the challenge events coming up later in the format. That's enough talking though. Let's go ahead and look over the deck list. So it comes in at about $265, so it's not too bad. It's in the middle, probably mid to average range as far as meta decks go. We're only playing 10 uninkable cards. We have a very early cost curve, as you can see in the 1 and 2 category. Our 3s teeter down, 4s are almost non-existent, and we're strong in our 5s, which makes sense in most Bucky decks because that's your shift card. That's usually your shift curve, is that 5-drop spot. We mentioned Under the Sea, and if we're playing a 9+ Amber card at 1, you can probably guess what it is. So our 1-drops, we're playing 2 Cinderella, because just being able to sing so many of the songs in the deck on turn 2 can put you ahead if you're on the play. 4 Kita, because it's intricate, or it's integral, right? Integral. It's very important to the Kita Under the Sea shift line. If you're going to do that on turn 4 to board wipe your opponent, you need to be able to shift Kita to go -3 on all their strength. 4 Queens as well, and then 3 Pegasuses. I went with the 4-4-3 lineup because I felt like of the 3, Pegasus was the least important for what we needed to do, and you can just hard play the big Pegasus on curve most of the time. 3 Ursula Singer. Again, she's a singer, but more importantly, we can go ahead and do kind of like the Diablo turn 2 shift. However, it's more of a turn 3 play. So you can get your Ursula down on turn 2. Turn 3, you come back with your Bucky, and then you discard a song and shift your Ursula onto your other Ursula. Force a discard of your opponent. Then you can go ahead and quest, look at their hand, and if they have another non-character card, go ahead and make them discard another card. We're playing just 3 Ursula Deceivers because, again, we have 3 Ursula Eric's Bride, and we're also playing Bare Necessities, so we don't need to max out on Little Ursula, because it just kind of feels bad to top deck into her late. The early board presence can be nice, and the fact that she hits a card also feels really good. 4 Ariel, because you want to be able to try and dig for those songs at the right time. And the Singer 5 can help your Under the Sea play all the time. 4 Diablos, 3 Ursulas, 4 Kita, and 4 Queen. Rounding out our character lineup, we also have 4 Pegasus and the 1 Chernobygs. So we're playing 19 Floodborns, which I feel like is pretty good in here. With Bucky, I think 19, I wouldn't go too much lower. In Purple Bucky, I think you can because of the bouncing effects and that, but we don't have that here. So I wouldn't really go too much lower than 19. Because once you get Bucky established, you really want to just come back Floodborn for at least like 4 or 5 turns in a row just to completely take your opponent out of the game. If things start to go weird, you're getting board wiped, you're getting wrecked that way, dropping a Chernobog not only to put your characters back in deck, but to put the 9/9 3-quester on board late game can be very difficult and often close out games. We are then playing 13 songs. Kind of like the 2 Ursulas, we're playing 3 Bare Necessities, so we have 9 cards to go after those songs in your opponent's hand. 3 Sudden Chills, 2 World's Greatest Criminal Mind, 3 Bruno as a potential removal, and then 2 Under the Sea. You may notice we're not playing anything like Sign the Scroll or You Have Forgotten Me. And while they're very good cards, either getting lore or forcing discard or multiple discards, I just felt like I don't want to spend my turn 4 or 5, anything like that, playing an action card. I would rather focus on songs and characters to keep my board state moving. And that's one thing I didn't like about a lot of the Lemon Lime discard lists with the You Have Forgotten Me, as like even as a 2 of, I just felt like coming back with something after a Bucky and like a Floodborn felt way stronger because yes, they only discard 1, not 2. But at the same time, you also get that board presence, and you don't essentially just lose a turn. You apply more pressure to your opponent that way. So now their hand is getting smaller, and your board is getting bigger. So for that reason, I went with more Floodborns and Bucky orientated, and less into the other the actions. Hypnotize being another one, like Hypnotize, You Have Forgotten Me, Sign the Scroll, things like that. Let me know what you guys think about this deck. Again, I'll have my top 10 decks for the set championship probably up next week, Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe we'll go shoot for Wednesday or Tuesday to give people a little more time to see it. Let's aim for Tuesday, possibly Wednesday, for the top 10 decks into set championships. I will give you guys a very quick hint right now. Number 1, 2, and 3, you already know what they are. They are going to be Bucky Discard, Ruby Amethyst, and Ruby Sapphire. There's no point in wasting time around it. Those are the best 3 decks of the format. Does Sapphire Steel hold on to number 4? I guess you're going to have to come back to find out what I think about that, because I don't think it's a slam dunk. I think the top 3 are set, and then I think there's going to be room and a little bit of noise in that 4 to 6 slot. And again, then we'll round out our top 10 with some more picks. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. Let me know down below what other things you want to see. I have been making notes on comments that you guys want, suggestions, and trying to work that in with other things that I had planned as well, and moving things around. I'm always here to try and help any way I can, whether it's advice in the comments, ideas. I try to respond, and I apologize if I miss any of it, but thank you guys so much for the support, and until next time, take care.